about Green Bay, and I want you to elaborate on this point. And the point being is, when people are unhappy, they don't give specifics. I'm unhappy with my company. And from there, I want you to take it away on Aaron in Green Bay.
If you had a best friend, right, a guy you grew up with and the families are friends, you know, he's married, you're married, everybody gets along, and he said to you, hey, I think I'm going to leave my wife. You're like, whoa, okay. Well, do you have any specifics? Nah, you know, I'm just not feeling it. And you'd be like, okay, but, you know, if you're going to blow up your family here, like, I need to be convinced a little bit. Like, I'm supporting you. I get it. You know, things change. I just need specifics. And this entire Aaron Rodgers saga has been rather vague. Like, I like Aaron Rodgers. I clearly like him more than you. But this Packers team is a Super Bowl contender. It's not like he's been with a team here for a decade plus that's never had any chance. And it's like, you know what? I get it. Rodgers is really special, and now he wants to move on. But this entire saga, Colin, I feel like, you know, I need to, like, you're playing the victim. Convince me you're the victim, okay? Convince me you're the victim, because just drafting Jordan Love and not getting a heads up is not enough for him to do this to the franchise that supported him, to do this to his teammates that I think for the most part really like him. So, okay, cool, you want out, and you do all these vague things. Like, I need something more specific. He can clearly leak it to anybody in the media that he wants to, but this entire timeline, Colin, I'm just not all that convinced he's as aggrieved as he portrays to be.
And finally, listen, I'm viewed as a Cowboy hate. You know, it's funny in our business. You're viewed as a hate. Like, for years, I was a Westbrook hater. And I always said, yeah, but I'm accurate. Like, I'm a hater if I was ripping Mahomes. Okay, then I'm a hater. But if you're accurate, you're not a hater. And so with Dallas, I pick him.
You're a truther.
That's boom. Thank you.
Right.
A different kind, a sports truther. So, but with Dallas, I always look at the schedule and I'm go, there'll be a game above 500. And this year I'm like 9-8 feels right. So I want on the record, Ryan, I got Dallas at 9-8. And I have them battling for a wild card at the end, and probably, because I trust Dak more than Daniel Jones, getting into the playoffs. That is my space today. That's where I'm landing on. Where are you on Dallas?
Well, I'll admit I'm a little caught up more in the NBA draft, but I think there's a Dallas point here to be made, and that is all of us that have done this at the national level for a long time, if we're not from there, we probably all sound like haters because we're so sick of talking about him. Do you remember the summer of Ezekiel Elliott's contract? That was like 3 weeks. So I think there's a little human nature that kicks in with all of us where you're just like, you know what? You know, we'll throw 500 on it. I mean, now instead of 8-8, we'll say that division out year to year. It's almost impossible. So I could see him winning it. I could see him being disappointing again. A lot of it's just going to depend on how much Dak can carry them, and then a defense that kind of fluctuates every single year. So I think you're probably closer to right, but that division's been so hard to figure out that I give up.
Yeah, Philadelphia will be bad, it feels like. Everybody else depends on the injuries, attrition. Ryan Russillo, the Ryan Russillo podcast. Great seeing you, my man. The house looks great. Everything's good for you. You look fantastic, bud.
I feel great. I was in a rut, and I came on the show today, and, you know, sky's the limit the rest of the day.
All right, Ryan Russillo, good stuff. By the way, Big Ben wore a T-shirt. We got to make it up. So I can be a prisoner to the moment. I can be a prisoner to confirmation bias. Hey, listen, I'd be the first to admit it. I like sports. I get excited. And yesterday I'm like, it does feel like Giannis is driving the car and everybody else kind of in the back seat. And then I think to myself, little hyperbolic, you know, KD did look like a better player against Giannis in a series about a month ago. But let's add some perspective. And you're really good at this stuff, Ryan. Let's just start with this. If you include everything, Ryan, is he the best player, Giannis, in the league right now? The best overall player?
No, I actually don't think he is. And it feels like I'm doing something wrong or it's against the rules.
Right.
Because what he did in Game 6, I mean, I don't want to knock anything that guy did. He was incredible. And I think the best thing about Giannis, too, is that he's this incredible star. Maybe he is the best player in the league. And he also cares the most. You know, his effort on both ends of the floor every single time. I mean, even the best players find some possessions to coast. And at 26 years old, even though he was coming off kind of this weird knee injury, it looked like every possession he was engaged, he was fighting, and he carried them offensively at other times. So, but, you know, I always have this rule that in the moment, we're probably the worst to listen to. Like we need like a week to cool off.
Right.
Like one of my favorite ever was that Joe Flacco was the best quarterback in the NFL the Monday after the Super Bowl. Like Merrill Hodge was on SportsCenter and he was like, here are my top 5 quarterbacks for next year. And it was like, wait, where like he has Flacco 1? Like awesome playoff run. Now look, Giannis is 100 times better than I think, to his contemporaries than Flacco was back then. So, look, I've kind of turned this into something else. My point is this, is that when we were watching Durant and the Nets with nobody else go up against the Bucks, it kind of felt like, as great as Giannis is, and he is great, it felt like there was another level of getting into your offense and shot making that Durant has and possesses. So I don't think it's wrong. Like it feels like it's against the rules, but I'm not going to feel guilty for saying, I probably still want Durant in a game.
Yeah, no, and that's why you're a good guest today, because I do think I can be a prisoner of the moment because, listen, it's such a great story. He's such a great kid. And to your point, I said yesterday, he plays like an 8-year-old playing his first game, and you want to, hey, slow down. There's 2 hours to go. Okay, so don't play so hard. Here's the other thing, though, and I'm not going to talk dynasty because they never last as long, but there does feel like a little bit of a San Antonio feel. A grateful, humble, legendary big. I mean, Manu was a second-round pick, so was Middleton. Tony Parker late first, so was Drew Holiday. Nice pieces, undervalued, with this selfless, coachable, both end of the floor, dominating, humble big. And it wasn't good for the NBA rating, San Antonio, but when Kobe and Shaq divorced, it opened the door for it. Well, LeBron, Kawhi leave the East. Ryan, outside of Brooklyn, that East is really Milwaukee's, is it not, for the next half decade?
Yeah, but that Brooklyn is a huge if, because I feel like, as much as I was wondering how it was all going to play out, honestly, Colin, if 2 of the guys were healthy, I think the Nets are NBA champs. I really do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how close that Bucks-Nets series was with a diminished Harden, who Milwaukee didn't even want to attack, and then no Kyrie. So all 3 of those guys. Now, the if question for Brooklyn's health, like no one can just go, oh, they'll be fine, they'll be healthy next year, because those guys, I mean, Kyrie hasn't had a normal finish to a season here in years. But there's a couple things you said there. One, and I think this is the best point to argue Milwaukee maybe having this kind of run, is that Giannis is Duncan in the sense that there's absolute buy-in, okay?
Yeah.
There hasn't been, how like people work in the media industry and like you're younger and you're like, I'm going to work so hard and I'm going to call everybody and I'm going to say yes to everything. And then you're like seasoned and you're around for 10 years. You're like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Like I think that NBA players, much like anybody else in any other industry, you're around long enough, you end up getting a little bitter about things. And like, there's none of that with Giannis. But here's my rule about dynasties, or even using the D word. Can we get to the second championship before we start throwing this? Can we just get to a second one before we even suggest that we have a dynasty in the making for any of these teams?
All right, I want to go to a football question now because you're good at this stuff. And we had a discussion yesterday. I didn't want to use it anywhere because it's sort of yours, and I don't like to, hijack.
I thought it was going to be your open for today because you were like, that's good.
Because he had. So I called him yesterday, and he had a very good point. And I thought it transcends Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay.